people have supported INEC in pushing out the idea that you got to be involved in this election.
You can't sit on the fence.
You can't sit on the fence.
No.
You can't be an
era is gone.
Yes, you can't be an observer in your country's election.
No, we'll leave that for the...
And the content have been very, very creative.
Yeah, very creative.
They've used different approaches. I've seen there's a Tetris video game.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Then people try to change some songs to suit into the mood.
Yeah.
It's been very creative.
Yes, we're going to come back to that, but I promised that I was going to give you the first right of reply, if that works here.
Yes, please.
Has the international community been fair in their commentary on Nigeria's election, and ditto to the foreign observers?
In my opinion, I think that they have been. If you notice, they've been measured in their releases, they've been measured in their press conferences. Nigeria is a very big ally of the US, the UK, and the European countries, so it's not unexpected that they would have some sort of interest in who becomes the president. I have not seen anything that would suggest that any step that they have taken so far is actuated by ulterior motive. I believe that just like all of us on the panel here and every other Nigerian, they also want the same outcome, an election that is devoid of violence, an election that is devoid of any other form of electoral malpractice, an election that would show clearly the intent of a larger percentage of Nigerians.
It's a good one, but I just want to, so we don't lose our train of thought.
Yes, please.
Let's also talk about the issue of social media, because obviously it's going to play a big role. It already has.
It is playing
a big role, and of course.
Yes.
So, I mean, how do we leverage more on this? I mean, in terms of, the elections are going to be taking place, definitely, so people definitely will be active on the social media. Yes. I mean, how best can we really, get to use the social media? And
well, in my opinion, sadly, as at today, we don't have so much stricture and structures around the use of social media, particularly for election purposes. I expect that emotions will run high. There are people on all the sides of the divide who want to push forward their candidate as much as possible. In this tense situation, you would find people possibly put things out that may not be completely true. Sometimes they may not have even verified what they are putting forward, but it just is something that appears to support their candidate. They push it out. I think that in future elections, perhaps there should be a mechanism to regulate how these news and information are disseminated. Because if you sit with your mobile phone in an anonymous location and you tweet or put forward something that would heat up the polity, I believe that there should be some sort of consequence to those sort of action. Let what we see on social media be the facts that we know them to be, and not something that is made up by someone sitting somewhere.
Which brings me to the issue of the phenomenon of fake news, which is already in the media space, social media. But how did we even get to this level, this phenomenon called fake news? And like you said, it's something that keeps popping up,
Absolutely.
So how do we...
I mean, I think with fake news, particularly in Nigeria, I think it's really important to state that it wasn't created by social media. This is something that has existed for a long time, irrespective of social media. Social media has just amplified an existing problem.
Very true.
So with or without, Twitter or Facebook, people were sharing rumors, spreading them amongst themselves, texting each other different things without necessarily verifying. So social media has just given that sort of room to travel. To speak on Namdi's point about regulation, as a journalist, anytime I hear the word regulation, it makes me a bit nervous because I think that, you know, tools like that can be exploited. People can use that as a means to clamp down on free speech, which is extremely important, particularly within a democracy. But the issue of fake news and combating it, there isn't a single solution. And that's why it is so complicated, because it's about media literacy, digital literacy, literacy in general. Tech companies need to be involved. It's a very holistic response. And this isn't just something that's affecting Nigeria. This is a worldwide phenomenon, and countries all over the world are struggling to deal with this. So it's unfortunate. I mean, there's been a lot, I'm sure all of you have seen, lots of different fake news posts that are being shared throughout this election. There are concerns that it could potentially lead to violence. All of us are hoping that it doesn't go that way. But I mean, there are a lot of fact-checking initiatives that have sprung up in order to try to combat this problem. And, you know, the word fake news is not something new to people anymore. We all know what it is. Yes. Even on the radio now, you're hearing adverts on WhatsApp and trying to get people to be careful about what they're sharing. There's still a lot of work to be done, though. It is still a massive problem.
Talked about the harmful effect of fake news. Now, there's been a lot of talk about how to spot fake news. And sometimes it's a bit of a challenge because, yeah, fake news sometimes could sound pretty credible, especially if it appeals to the emotions of those consuming it.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be. And, you know, technology is becoming a lot more sophisticated. I know we had a bit of a chat about deep fakes now. There are all sorts of different levels to the kinds of fake news that we're seeing. So it is tough, but there are tools that you can use to try to detect. If it's text, usually, if it's extremely inflammatory language, that's not necessarily, I mean, you know, when you get a broadcast or something on WhatsApp and it just sounds very sort of outlandish, the best thing to do is to go and check, you know, credible sources, check multiple sources to see whether or not other outlets are reporting this type of information. As I said before, there are a lot of fact-checking initiatives that have opened up. The AFP have one, Premium Times have one, the BBC has one. You can verify your information there. There are lots of tools where you can verify pictures. Google image reverse search is one. There's one called TinEye for videos. There's a software called InVid that you can use to try to help you verify videos. But most importantly, I would always say that you should think before you share. If you're not sure, and I know that a lot of people are moved by emotion. I mean, my mum sends me lots of WhatsApp messages, and I have to sort of tell her, Mum, you know, have you checked whether or not this is true? But to her, she wants to just send just in case. And there is that sense of, you know, you get something that sounds a bit worrying, and you want to alert people. But as you said, it can do a lot more harm than good. So it's better to check before sharing. Because you don't know what kind of damage you could inadvertently cause.
All right. It appears that, like we say in our elections or in governance, when there is no punishment, when there is no apparent punishment for an offense, it appears that that gives the leeway for it to fester. Dr. Dashi, do you think there is enough punishment, or is there any well, there is some form of punishment for those propagating fake news or who might be attacking other people on social media where your account gets blocked or things like that. Do you think there is enough punitive measures put in place by those who own those social media platforms to ensure that there is stiff punishment for those who engage in fake news?
As far as I'm concerned, if there's any punishment, I'm yet to see one. But the social media is an open market. Everybody dumps anything he or she wishes to dump in the social media. Rumors arrive. Rumors of PVCs being kept in houses. Rumors of trailer loads of ballot boxes being snatched. Rumors of party chieftains being killed. Rumors of foreigners being imported into the country to vote. And it creates a lot of tension, and part of the apparent tension in the country for the elections is a result of the unsubstantiated stories and rumors put into social media. I think there's not enough punishment. Our regulatory processes, I think they've not yet got it right. It's important to put in place without necessarily infringing on people's rights to express themselves. But there should be some measures to curb such often very inciting and dangerous stories deliberately implanted into social media. I think it's time because the danger is caused a lot of infights and the cause of problems here and there. It's important that the relevant authorities, the cybersecurity experts and the rest, to please, as a matter of priority,
well,
a measure of controlling, especially very, very sensitive materials that could cause problems, especially treasonable materials and so on. It's important, but for now, I think the punishment is grossly insufficient. The control is grossly insufficient. It's important that it should be set in motion.
Well, talking about the actions and the consequences now, there's also the issue that we were trying to address initially, and that's talking about the impact of fake news on the electoral process this time around. And I'm directing this inquiry to Mr. Shola Ajay. Do you think that fake news in any form has had a major impact on this process, talking about the run-up into the 2019 elections?
It is very difficult to measure the impact of fake news so far. I mean, because remember something, the social media serves two purposes. One is it serves the purpose of keeping the interest of those who have the facility to be able to get the information in real time. Secondly, there's a level of education that comes with whatever you get, from the social media. Now, when you say fake news comes in various forms. And the sad part of that, because I was listening to Ms. Adegoke saying something about how to verify some of these news items. And she mentioned things like, organizations like BBC, CNN, etc. In the Nigerian sense, in the Nigerian scenario, most of our broadcast organizations, for example, are not really they're not sophisticated enough to be able to cover the whole gamut of the preparations for this election. Well, Channel is doing a good job. We can see that you send your reporters almost everywhere. But to be able to corroborate a story regarding some information that is gotten out of the social media, which you call fake news, the average Nigerian in the diaspora, or the one that has access to all the various platforms, it is difficult for them to be able to say whether this is correct or this is not, because the complementary industry, let's put it like that, the complementary platform, which basically I'm talking of the broadcasting platform, which they could have been able to hear something about it, is not as highly developed as one would have seen.